we find ourselves in a chaotic, cruel, and chronically online world, filled with political division, social tension, and economic instability. No, what we need in these trying, terrifying times are heroes. Today I want to introduce just 5 of the greatest martial artists of all time. Men who have mastered combat without the burden of things like documented and verifiable fights, realistic techniques, or techniques that can stand up to resistance. Let's talk about martial arts masters. Ah yes, Joshua Fabia. If delusion were a martial art, this man would be a Hall of Famer. Fabia became famous for his training of Diego the Nightmare Sanchez. A little side note actually, Diego was the fighter who got me into the UFC. Well, one of the fighters. I remember watching his stint on The Ultimate Fighter, and it's actually what started me watching the sport. By the time he met Joshua, he was a UFC veteran on the tail end of his career, and unfortunately he crossed paths with a man who looked at modern sports science and said, "No thanks, I've got knives." Diego was never the most discerning at spotting people trying to take advantage of him, and it seems that Fabio was able to weasel his way into Diego's ear and ultimately isolate him. Of course, not dissimilar to how Grimmer Wormtongue had done to King Theoden. Unfortunately, there wasn't really a Gandalf to drive Fabio off until it was a bit too late, and he'd done irrevocable damage to Diego's career and Diego's health. Some of Fabio's exquisite techniques included chasing Diego around with knives, hanging him upside down, punching him in the head while he was being hung upside down, and some kind of woo-woo spiritual meditation shite. All of this was meant to somehow prevent or even reverse the potential CTE damage that Diego had already taken. If you've watched any other sort of documentaries on Diego, you'd know that he was deathly afraid of CTE. And it seems that Fabio really kind of weaseled his way into that, and that's how he sunk his claws into Diego. A lot of the training that Fabio was touting to Diego was all about being able to prevent and reverse CTE and damage to Diego's brain. And I believe that's probably part of the reason why Fabio was able to keep control of Diego for so long. Fabio claims secret knowledge, military connections, advanced combat systems. He spoke in a tone of a man who had unlocked the Matrix. Presumably only the loading screen, though. His resume, once examined, dissolved faster than a raccoon dipping cotton candy in water. As far as we can tell, the only actual documented involvement in sport Fabio actually has is with the Christchurch kindergarten team. To be fair, that is still more documented evidence than Frank Dux' Kumite, but we'll talk about that more later. All jokes aside, how this man managed to infiltrate the training camp of one of MMA's greats remains a mystery, along the same sort of level of why nobody stopped him sooner. Now we move on to Rafael Torre. Rafael Torre. Shit, I need to look up how to actually say his name right. Now we move on to Rafael Torre. Now, if you were posting on Sherdog in the early 2000s, chances are you came across Torre. And I wouldn't necessarily say it's just reading Torre's posts, it's experiencing them. His resume, well, his reported resume was extensive. He was prolific, a legend, a forum philosopher, a paragraph pugilist, comment section conqueror, a man who typed like he was fighting for his life, paragraph after paragraph explaining why sports fighters are limited, real combat cannot be filmed, cameras distort energy, and how he could and how he could dismantle any professional fighter, but chose not to. He chose not to, guys. Chose not to, you know? Hey, I could do it, but I choose not to. Now, it's the same sort of level as back in school when you used to go, my dad could beat up your dad. Raphael. Oh, what a man. He was somewhat of a Schrodinger's fighter, you know? He might be the greatest fighter in the world, but we're not going to open the box to find out. In that moment, he was both the greatest fighter in the world and not a fighter. For, you see, he was too deadly to compete, too advanced to spar, you know, it would be unfair to everyone else, and too enlightened to provide evidence. Unnecessary, just unnecessary. Every request for footage was met with a deeper abstraction. Real combat transcends performance. You wouldn't understand, you see. I have nothing to prove to you. Which is convenient, because proving something would have been catastrophic for him. He claimed eye strikes too fast to see, bone breaks too efficient to record, and ultimately an undefeated street record longer than the Epstein flight logs. And yet, during that glorious golden age of grainy 240p YouTube fight videos, nothing. Not a clip, not a sparring round, not even a heavy bag that looked mildly concerned. Kinda weak, Raphael, kinda weak. But let's be honest, you know, it was performance art. A one-man production titled, trust me bro, all of this carried on until February 24th, 2001. Raphael took part in a fight. It was King of the Cage 7, Wet and Wild, a dramatic fight taking place in a rainstorm. Beautiful, you know, cinematic even. Where, you know, do swim, where he defeated Loka Tianu via submission in 1 minute and 56 seconds. Side note, the outcome was actually widely suspected to be staged, with reports that Torre had paid Tianu to lose. That is also his only recorded victory, despite, you know, his claims to the contrary. But now we have a slight tonal shift. Rafael Torre was convicted of murder. Yeah, I'm not joking. So he was convicted of murdering a man called Brian Richards, who was his lover's husband. So, you know, Rafael Torre was sleeping with a married woman, and he murdered her husband, Brian Richards. He'd initially offered a former MMA fighter money to kill Richards. When that was refused, he did it himself by choking Richards to death. He later claimed it was self-defense. Unfortunately for Raphael, the jury found these claims unbelievable, and he was convicted of murder. And suddenly, the online world of fight philosophy collides with real-world consequences. Enjoy rotten, Raphael. Now we arrive at the ultimate ninja, Ishida Kim, a man of scrolls, smoke, and suspicious self-publishing. Some of his claims include ninjutsu lineage, espionage experience, covert operations, and at times, things that sound suspiciously like he might have fought within the Mortal Kombat lore. According to Ishida, real ninjas don't compete, they don't spar, they don't provide documentation. They move in shadows, undetectable, nay, invisible. Which is, of course, extremely convenient when someone asks for proof. But not to worry, Ishida has actually authored books, sold seminars, built an entire mystique around secret techniques that are either, again, too deadly to show, too secret to document, or too imaginary to replicate. As you can tell, this secrecy is very important to him. That is unless you want an autograph or to learn the ancient art of ninja sex. Then you just need to buy one of his books. Critics would ask for verification. Ishida would respond as if they had dishonored a 400-year-old clan. There's something quite admirable about his commitment, though. He didn't half-build his fantasy. He built the cloak, the scrolls, the narrative, the whole cinematic universe. Honestly, the only thing Ishida's missing is a fight that doesn't look more like an interpretive dance, really. Now, here's where it gets quite interesting. George Dillman is a real martial artist with real credentials and like a real bit of lineage. You can look into some of George Dillman's old school stuff and it's really interesting. He's actually like a legit martial artist with some actual ability and training. Where it gets interesting is where he moved in his later life. Dillman seemed to decide he needed a gimmick, and so he became known for pressure point knockouts. Then that moved on to the no-touch knockouts. In these demonstrations, students would collapse from a light tap or sometimes just from aggressive eye contact. Did you just pass out? Now, pressure points are real and can work to an extent. Pain compliance is very real. But once you introduce, resistance, maybe skepticism, or maybe you didn't prepay for the seminar, the magic tends to fade a bit. There's this famous moment where a skeptical participant simply doesn't fall over, and suddenly centuries of chi mastery defeated by maybe having your tongue in the wrong place in your mouth, or maybe a toe out of line.
Up with a very interesting explanation.
The skeptic was a totally non-believer. Plus, I don't know if I should say that on film, but if the guy had his tongue in the wrong position of the mouth, that can also nullify it. Yeah, you can nullify it. You can nullify a lot of things done to you. In fact, you can nullify it if you raise those two big toes. Plus, if I say I'm going to knock you out, and you raise one toe and push one toe down, can't knock you out.
Now, while Dillman was once a very skilled martial artist, in fact, he trained with Muhammad Ali. Legit, really did. Again, super, super interesting. There is a danger once you start drifting from skill and technique into just mysticism. Nothing wrong with mysticism. I think that can be an important part of karate and multiple martial arts as well. But focusing too heavily on it does tend to neglect the other side of it, which is the martial side of it, the physical aspect of it. When it works, you're a wizard. When it doesn't, you're lightly slapping a man who's refusing to faint. And finally, we move on to the big man, Big Frank, the main hero, the leader of our little group of Avengers here. Frank was the man who gave us Bloodsport, the man who convinced an entire generation that an underground death tournament had press coverage. Frank claims he won the Kumite. He was a secret agent doing secret military missions, classified operations, and that these records did 100% exist, but they were super duper secret, and the government had kind of disowned him because he was too super duper secret and he was too good at his job. Seriously. There's some crazy shit with Frank. He's a really interesting character. The Kumite allegedly had no rules. It was a death tournament, yet somehow had brackets, trophies, spectators, and still no documentation. And interestingly enough, the amount of rounds that were needed, they were single elimination fights, right? And the amount of rounds that apparently happened would have required, I think it was more people than currently the population of Earth at the time. Or something crazy like that. The numbers were ridiculous. It was such an insane amount of participants required for the supposed amount of rounds in a single elimination fight that Frank Dux fought that, you needed ridiculous numbers. So either entire populations were decimated and killed in these fights, or he was fighting people from other universes, other galaxies, interdimensional fights. In fact, with how it was happening, it would have to have been the most organized secret event in human history. Duke's stories expand over time. As scrutiny increased, so did his mythology. It's almost poetic, to be honest. He's like a modern-day Odysseus. A modern-day Achilles. Greatest of all time. And I hope in the future historians come to worship Frank Dux. I hope we assume that Frank Dux might have been a god. Because maybe he is. Maybe he is. Unfortunately, reality has pushed back on Frank a little bit. And he has kind of gotten embarrassed a couple of times. And look, guys, without Frank Dux, we wouldn't have gotten Bloodsport. And so, maybe the real Kumite were the movies we made along the way. On a side note, Frank really does remind me in a lot of ways of Jakadima. But that's a whole different story for a whole nother day. But if you know, you know. Thank you for watching. Really enjoyed making this video and talking about these interesting individuals. So, it's a new year, and And I know I haven't uploaded in, well, back since some of those guys were considered real fighters. But seriously, yeah, my last video I think I recorded almost 2 years ago now. I've moved several times. Yeah, that video was recorded about 3 moves ago. Yeah, I'm settled in here now, and I'm hoping to maybe start making some more videos now. I'm not going to promise an upload schedule because I know I kind of suck at that. So for now, I will just say thank you for watching. Hopefully some more videos come back. And for the first time in a long time, cheers.